Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. And today I get to interview my brother from another mother, Adam Peak, the great one. Welcome to
Is
the
it
show, my friend.
is it still cool to raise the roof, or that's not cool anymore, right?
It's
That
cool
this
if you
is
do it.
it's not cool if I do it.
I don't
I
know.
have a power of making things uncool.
I
That's what
don't
I've
think,
done with
yeah,
all the like Gen Z slang with my
yeah,
kids. Like I found when I start to use them, they are now uncool. And so if I want to get rid of like what's the skibbity, I'll just say it. Or like no cap, I'll just say it all the time, and the kids are like, "I'm not using this word anymore," and I'm like, "Thank you."
that's how
Now
you
it's
do it,
gone.
man. You
Yeah,
just torture, you just
exactly.
torment them into using proper English. That's how I do it.
Amen.
Yeah, man. So you are Adam. You're the founder of Golden Rule Consulting and the founder of the People of Packaging podcast. Um, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
I am still trying to figure that out. I ventured out on my own. I've had Golden Rule Consulting now for a while, just for some side things that I've done, just projects along the way. I started the People of Packaging podcast with my good friend Ted Tate, who still stays involved kind of on the outskirts, and that's a
Yeah,
whole fun story. But we started that going on about 8 years ago was the idea, and have been making podcast episodes around the packaging industry now for a while, over 315, I think. Um, but in my consulting now, I'm full time, so I sort of have a few buckets of income. So I'm a keynote speaker, so I go speak at events specifically almost exclusively in the packaging industry. I'm a content creator, and so companies will hire me just to promote and create content. And then I do consulting for packaging, usually packaging manufacturing companies around sales and marketing strategy. And then also CPG, which is consumer packaged goods companies, will bring me in on more of a one off for sustainability consulting. So I'll come in and talk about different packaging substrates and various laws that are impacting the industry and would be impacting them. So those are kind of the four main buckets of consulting income that I have and that
that's
I work
wild.
in.
Well, that's wild. So including the podcast, right? And so
Yeah.
of all of those five things, which of those is the most supporting you? Like, which do you do the most?
I do the most sales and marketing. That's a
Yeah.
monthly retainer, I would say, for a couple of different companies, and that occupies the majority of my time because I function as essentially a sort of an outsourced business development person
Yep.
or an outsourced, kind of CSO or CRO for another company, and then my podcast is probably the next, which
Yep.
is there's recurring revenue there on my podcast with sponsorships, and
Yep.
so not that I do everything for the sponsors, but shout out to SpecRite.
Yeah, baby.
They've been awesome. They've been one of my partners for actually. I just noticed on the screen. I was like, "Oh, I'm wearing my SpecRite shirt."
Yeah.
But they've been a tremendous sponsor, and I do a lot of collaborative work, and we'll probably get into my superhero quest.
Yep.
But I do a lot of connected collaborative work with a couple of people. My good friend Corey Connors, who hosts the Sustainable Packaging Podcast, and Avelio Matos, who hosts Packaging Unboxed. And collectively, we host a daily packaging talk show called Packaging Today. And
Yep.
SpecRite has been a tremendous partner and enabler for us to do that. They make specification data management software, and they are phenomenal. You
All
should
right,
meet them.
dude. So I got to give some respect here. So the reason that I'm even interviewing you, I've started doing interviews. I've got my own podcasts and newsletters at this point, but it's because of you. Like I learned this from 100% from you. Like I am only doing this because you taught me about that. The idea that you could make high level connections with people and really connect with people through this kind of podcast interview mechanism and end up in conversations that you never thought you'd end up in.
Yeah,
It's been amazing for me. And so first I just want to thank you for that, like just for giving me the blueprint and sharing the special sauce with me.
I love it. Yeah, it makes me so happy. I mean, we've known each other now for a while. Technically going back to college, but really, our families became like family. I mean, literally, like you were sitting in a place in a residence in which
Yeah,
I at one point also dwelt. So Johnny and his amazing family, when we moved from Colorado Springs to Salt Lake City, they were able to move into our home, and that was great. So, because it's a wonderful house and a great legacy that we're excited to see continue to be carried on there in
yeah.
the Springs. So, yeah, I mean, it's what family does for each other, right? Is if we're not helping each other out, then what are we doing?
Nah, yeah, you bless me a lot, man, and you are family to me. And so yeah, just like the investments you made just kind of keep growing, which is cool to see.
Love
Uh,
it.
so let's go. Let's get underneath a little bit because you talked about a little bit about what you do. I think I've got a decent enough understanding, and people watching have a decent enough understanding of that. Now let's go down to like what makes you good at it, right?
Mm.
What is it about you? What's the gift inside of you that's kind of drawn you the thread that you can tie through your journey to what's led you to today?
It would be I got a job in sales, and I was pastoring at Aletheia Church, which is where our primary connection point.
Yep.
And I started to work this job in sales, and certainly you were there for almost all of this journey in Colorado Springs.
Yep.
And I began to see, I thought I'd be bad at sales, to be totally honest with you,
Yeah.
because my perception of selling was the like boiler room, Glengarry, Glen Ross,
Yep.
like, brass balls and the whole steak knives and Cadillac scene. That was my perception of selling. Um, and but I got a job and I needed a job. I was like double broke. I was very
Yeah.
broke.
Yeah.
Like missed didn't even know that I didn't know what an expense report was when I got my first big boy sales job, and I overdrew my checking account for multiple months waiting for my first expense report to come in because I didn't realize I had to pay, and then they would reimburse me a few months later, and I had a maxed out credit card and no money, and it was terrifying.
Yeah.
And so I only share that story because that was my entrance into selling was from a position of not strength, but actually weakness. I didn't know the industry I got a job in. We just had our third kids. We had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn. I had a lot of medical debt from HSA account, and it was just like, this is hard.
Yeah.
This is a hard. And so that unearthed the side of me that was always there, but really had to shine, which was creative connections to people. Because I didn't have
Yeah.
the industry knowledge, I didn't have the network, and I candidly just wasn't quite sure what to do other than lean into this side of me, which was sort of this thing I'd been preaching about, which was like your creativity is the most divine thing about humanity. It's literally the first attribute assigned to God in Genesis 1. Like in the beginning,
Come
God
on.
created. And so the fact that we get to create and be creative is something that's very divine about us. And I know that you and I share this passion for this idea. And so I just started hustling and getting creative and how I was going to reach out and talk to people. I engaged in just brutal, truthful honesty. I thought about like, well, how do I put others' needs above my own? And I just started to do this stuff. And I was able to build by most accounts, a very successful career
Yeah.
in selling in an industry that I had no background in.
Crazy.
And and so I got to a point where I thought, I think that I can go help other people do this.
Yeah.
And and to say that I figured out what that is would be silly because I'm like month 6 into this journey of doing this
Yeah.
myself. So I've embarked upon like not how do I sell any longer, but how do I bundle up what I've done and what I've learned and what does that look like for other people? And I haven't figured that part out yet, but I'm having fun learning and discovering it.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's wild. There's so much we could go into with that, but I have noticed, you know, part of the angle I wanted to put on this interview was connection and the art of connection. You're one of those people that I consider to be a superconnector. And in my superpower framework, when you took my superpower quest survey, and this was a while back, so I don't know whether your answers would change now, but you put that your core drive was progress, right? Forward motion.
Hmm.
And you put that your hero types were dreamer, leader, right? So dreamer, creative, big picture, abstract, visionary, and then leader is the coach or the director or like a person who a lot of times a leader is a coach, right? Likes to bring people up, bring people alongside, invest in people, but also not afraid to tell people what to do.
Hmm.
Like that's the leader. Would you say that still feels
Yeah.
right for you?
Yeah. That's not, I mean, it still feels accurate. I mean, it's weird to say. I think most people have a hard time saying positive things about
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah,
Um, but that feels accurate.
yeah,
I notice one thing you actually gave this wonderful gift to me, and I never fully realized how powerful this was until you sort of named it for me. And you said it on a call. I don't even remember when we were just talking, and you said that it was situational fluidity,
yeah,
meaning
yeah,
I have no problem jumping from this interview into a totally random different topic in 5 minutes. And I didn't know that about myself until you sort
yeah,
of named it. And I was like, yeah, this is I mean, I can get screamed at on a phone call because
yeah,
something has gone bad, just
yeah,
ripped up and down. And then be having ice cream with my family 10 minutes later and have no problem with that.
yeah.
And I don't know if that's good or bad, but
That's awesome, dude.
I just don't, I don't, I don't, I don't operate from, I don't know where it came from. I'll be totally honest. I don't.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I think that then enables me to operate a little bit more freely in sort of that like connector leader space
yeah,
because I can fail and be totally fine with that failure and just
yeah,
sort of iterate and move on to the next thing. So,
yeah.
like starting a podcast in the packaging industry, there was zero. There's no blueprint for it. There's
No,
not a single podcast about packaging when I started it, and
yeah,
when Ted and I started it. But I wasn't. I was just like, let's just figure it out. And our first interviews were horrible. They were so bad,
yeah,
but they've gotten better. And I have better equipment, and I have. So I don't know, man. Yeah, I kind of
yeah,
feel like that's where where I've landed, and that idea of progress and movement
yeah,
is very real. It's just like, how do I do better today? And and I'm not maybe the dreamer thing. I would actually say of all those, the dreamer thing is maybe a little less prevalent in my life right now
yeah,
because I've become very less fixated on what's the big picture and
yeah,
more like I'm going to stay open to possibilities and be like Bruce Lee said, like, be like water, right? Like
yeah,
I just want to move with the current, um, and sometimes create my own pathways because of it.
yeah, yeah, dude. This is so you're somewhat. I interview a lot of people, and I mean, I talk to people about superpowers. Like if you talk to me for any length of time, we're gonna start to talk about what your gift is and and we're gonna start to try to put language to it, because I found in my own life that when you put language to it, you can move into it. Right?
Yeah,
You can actually start to more intentionally exercise it instead of instinctually exercising it, which means you can do it more. And so you're kind of a unicorn in that. What I've noticed about you since I've known you is that kind of fearlessness and that willingness to risk and swing for the fences, right? So like a lot of people talk about things, and I would say I'm more that person. I'm a conceptual kind of cerebral person. Sometimes I've had to learn how to force myself to lean into action more, and I think I'm doing a lot better at it than in the past, and then is my kind of native bent. But I part of that is I've been encouraged and challenged and kind of called upward by what I watch you do, which is, yeah, I'm gonna start a podcast, like whatever, like just you get ideas and then you execute it. It goes into the realm of execution pretty fast. And so there's a fearlessness there that I see. I don't know if you feel fearless when you're doing it, but there's a fearlessness that I perceive on the outside, of moving into the world of possibility and bringing something from the world of possibility into the real world to see if it works. Now, were you always like that, or did you learn that through, the trauma of, you got an empty bank account and you're struggling, 3 kids, you're struggling to get by and you got to figure it out, or was there evidence of that before that in your life?
I think there was evidence of that before. I'll give a shout out to my parents. They are two incredible people, Ed and Lydia, and I mean, obviously, just like all of us, they're not perfect, but I remember my dad especially would teach me about things like the OODA loop, for example, when I was like in high school, and it
Yeah.
was observe, orient, decide, act, and he
Yeah.
would say things like decisions without actions are pointless, and actions without decisions are reckless, right? Like these were just things that I just would have in my
Wow.
brain that I can recall right now. Like this isn't I don't have a script. This
Yeah.
is just stuff that's been implanted in my dome by Papa Peak. And so I do think that there was probably a lot of that was just sort of part of my brain and my framework.
Yeah.
And I will say that there's a luck element to this as well that I don't think I've really fully teased out.
Yeah.
But the luck element is the time in which I was born,
Yeah.
because by the time I was 18 was when Facebook and MySpace came out.
Yeah.
And I did not have, I had a lot of freedom growing up to just be bored, to walk, to think, to,
Yep.
I had to get creative with like, what am I going to do with my friends when we're hanging out?
Yep.
We didn't know, but it was like, oh, let's make up a game. Let's pretend like this is golf and soccer. That was a game we made up, or let's build a fort or whatever. I'm not here to like be like, back in my day, but it was my brain had to form creatively
Yes.
without being entertained constantly. And that was luck, because I can tell you that since then, I have to watch the amount of time I spend consuming and entertaining myself. Like, and I think back, like, could that have been a thing that derailed this, where I became more of a consumer rather than
Yeah.
a creator
Come on.
when I was growing up?
Yeah.
And I'm not so prideful to say that I would have survived that and been the same person.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of good. We're talking about podcasting, and I make content. Like, I'm not saying that this is all bad.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I would have been that person, because my brain was able to fully form prior to the advent of social media. And
Yeah.
so I feel like there's a lot of grace given to me there, and a lot of luck, honestly. So there's an
Yeah.
intentionality. I was always very, very, what's the word? Comfortable in front
Yeah.
of groups of people. So I'd go to
Yeah.
like youth and government. I remember one time, I'm talking a lot, but I went to an event in Denver, and we got to go to the Capitol. It's called Youth and Government, and I was a representative. It was my senior year. And there was a bill, and I stood up to argue why it was a good bill. And I don't know, apparently I did such a good, I don't even remember the content, but I did such a good job that when the speaker was like, okay, who's going to argue the other side? Nobody raised their hand. I was like, well, screw it. So I raised my hand and I went up and I said why I was wrong. And
Freaking
I
Adam.
presented the opposite in front of the whole house, and everyone was like, what is happening? And I sat down. I don't remember what happened with the bill, but I'd never had a fear of being in front of people and speaking in public. And
Yeah.
I know that that's also a gift that I don't know where that came from. So,
But not only not a fear of getting up in front of people, but also not a fear of doing something weird and outside of the box, like
yes.
arguing both sides of a debate, right? Most people would not do that because of social awkwardness, or like, well, what are people going to think,
Yeah.
right? That would be a scary thing. And so that willingness to kind of step into the unknown or do something that hasn't been done before seems like it's one of the features.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah. Can you talk about, you mentioned this, and I love this, and this is just bonus content here, right? Because you talked about the creation versus consumption
Hmm.
um, paradigm. Can you talk? I've actually used that with my family at this point. It's helped me conceive of how it's a framework for dealing with a complex world in which a lot more entertainment is readily available than ever before. And we need some kind of way to regulate our approach to it. And I
Yeah.
found your framework to be good. You want to talk about that a little bit?
I would love to. I think this is it's an important topic. So this kind of struck me when I was thinking about food, and I might get into the theological component of this in a second, but I was thinking about food and being in packaging. I'm exposed to how food gets made often because I work in food and beverage packaging pretty frequently. So I've been in plants where they make food, and it's very hard. It's very complicated. It takes a lot of time. There's a bunch of moving parts. It's difficult to create food for somebody. Think about a recipe. You got to get all
Yep.
the things. You got to do that's hard. It's very easy to consume that food though.
Yes.
So it's easy for me now. It's always been easy to eat food because you just our bodies are made to consume food. But we have to watch what we consume with food. Or else we have health problems, we have like we can become obese, whatever it is. Like there's all sorts of negative consequences to just unrestrained consumption of whatever you want to eat.
Right.
And so I took that framework and I applied it to just media in general. When I realized that the average American is spending 45 to 50 hours every week consuming media,
Yeah.
YouTube videos, social
Yep.
media, television, whatever it is, I was like, is this healthy for us to be doing as people? Because that represents it's 40 to 45% of your waking hours every week are spent consuming something, which seemed unhealthy to me.
Yeah.
And so I needed a framework to say, like, would it be healthy if all you ate was sugar whenever you wanted all the time? And would that be healthy? The answer is no. And that's essentially what most media consumption is just unhealthy sugar. Occasionally, there can be merit for it. But the real work is actually done in the creation
Come on.
because that's where you learn. And so I think that there's value in social media if you spend more time creating content than you do consuming content.
Yeah.
And I focus so much of my time on how do I become a better content creator. It's not
Yep.
all of it. I'm also subject to the occasional just like I've been scrolling on Instagram Reels for 45 straight minutes. This is not good.
Right.
So I set up things on my phone. I set up alerts. I set up, there's certain social media that I'm not on anymore because it was detrimental to me, my emotional health. So
Yes.
like, I don't have a Facebook account anymore. You can't find me on Facebook because my
Right.
account is gone. Not because I'm a holier person. I just didn't, the type of content I wanted to create on Facebook was unhealthy content
Yep.
creation and it was unhealthy content consumption. And so that was a
Yep.
medium that I no longer need to be on. LinkedIn has been awesome because I just want to connect and create content there. I don't
Yep.
spend a lot of time consuming it. But man, do I love connecting with people, my direct
Yep.
messages, the
Yep.
comments. So to me, I'm on LinkedIn a lot because I am creating connections, creating content, and that's where the positive synapses of my brain are just spinning and going out of control is because like I get to log in. I turned off my notifications, by the way. So I don't
Yep.
get any notifications. So I log in, it says like you've 30 new things. I'm like, awesome. I get to now go talk to people and see who's saying things. And
Yep.
so that was the big switch for me was how do I create content? And even on Instagram, I don't do anything with packaging. I only talk about Utah high school basketball. It's probably annoying for people, but I wanted to create connections and I wanted to create content and figure out what was that on Twitter, what was that on Instagram. Packaging wasn't really all that fun for people, but they sure like talking about basketball.
Yeah.
And so that was a way to healthily engage with these platforms was as a creator, not as a consumer. And of course, if everybody did that, then the social media platforms would be destroyed because there'd be nobody looking at the content anymore.
Yep.
So I don't
But I
know.
think it's accurate, right? Simon Sinek actually just talked about this. I am also careful with the content I consume. You and I have landed similar places with our relationship to creation versus consumption and with our families.
Hmm.
And AI just supercharges the whole thing,
Yeah.
right? And so uh, the most well reasoned, moving um, I guess, narrative concerning AI came through an interview that I saw with Simon Sinek. It was Diary of a CEO. I don't know if you're familiar with that podcast or that. It's a YouTube channel, incredible channel. But this guy sits down and does long form interviews with massively influential and famous people, and they sit with them for like 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes, just digging deep. And they were talking. And he was talking with Simon Sinek, the author of Start with Why, about AI, and he was talking about how we say life's about the journey, but what we love about AI is that it lets us skip the journey and get the result. That's
Hmm.
what we like about AI.
Yeah.
And he was saying like, and he was like, I'm an author. I wrote a book. He was like, yes, AI could have written my book. He was like, but I changed because I wrote my book. I
Hmm.
grew because
That's
I
so
wrote my
good.
book. Right. And so he talked about what I think is kind of, I'm not here to bash AI. I use AI and I love it. I love
Me
the
too.
tool. But our relationship with it is going to have to be regulated, just like you're
Right.
talking about, right? And am I going to create, or am I going to let something create for me, or am I going to have the right boundaries for where I engage in a certain part of the creative process and then allow it to do some things for me, which is kind of how I use it, right? I'm a big time creator. My favorite use of AI is to just dictate into
Hmm.
it. Just brain dump this massive thought that I'm having, and I ask it to structure the thought for me.
Yeah.
It's my favorite use of it because structuring, I don't want to spend a lot of my time structuring the thoughts. I want to spend a lot of my time ideating. That's where I'm at my best, right? And so I think we all have to figure out those boundaries. So what you said, I think, has a lot of ramifications for um, how to learn how to exist in a healthy way in the world as it's changing.
Yeah. And AI is going to be a ever evolving thing. It's the best analogy I heard was from my friend Sia Mali, who you should totally have on to talk about AI. He's
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah,
Um, but he said, it's sort of like AOL, like the Netscape AOL stages of the internet. That's where we're at right now with AI. And it feels like, oh, it's like revolutionary, but look at how much the internet has changed since
mm-hmm.
the 90s
Yep,
when like the AOL came up on a CD to your house. It's like, oh, the internet's here.
yeah,
That's how you got internet.
yeah,
Um, or what Napster and LimeWire, now it's just streaming everything. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
great point.
There's a lot changing. So yeah, that's a little bit of a rabbit trail, but getting us back to something I'm really interested in for about you and your life. One thing is, like I said, you tested it in the Superpower Quest as a dreamer leader. But everybody has all of the different types. There are 6 types, right? The connector, nurturer, leader, organizer, dreamer, achiever. And you just have things that float to the top and
Hmm.
things that float to the bottom. And at the very bottom are things that are more like your kryptonite or more like your hindering areas. And then towards the top. But as a sum of your parts, you are a super connector. So I am a connector. Connector is top for me. I'm a connector dreamer. But one of the people that taught me the most about connection was actually a dreamer leader. It was you from the sum of
Hmm.
your parts. And so I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about your journey, like what connection has done for you in your life. Let's just start there.
Yeah.
What has connection done for you? What does it mean to you? What has it done for you in your life?
So in my sales role, I learned something, and then similar to how you kind of gave me some framework, I found a guy named Josh Brown or Josh Braun, Braun. I keep saying Josh Brown because I'm a
Yeah,
Denver Nuggets fan,
yeah,
and Christian Brown spells it the
yeah.
same way. Josh Braun is a sales trainer. He's phenomenal, and he gave me this concept of deposits and withdrawals. And he said, if you're in sales, you're constantly trying to withdraw from people. Can I get some time? Can I quote on this? Will you answer this email? Where it's always a withdrawal, but you're going to overdraw your account. So I should probably check my bank account actually. Maybe God's trying to tell me like, "Hey, bro, talked about this twice now." Um, but how can you go make deposits? How can
Yeah.
you help people? Like, give them real discernible value first.
Yeah.
And I had naturally been trying to do that. So I would think to myself, what is this person's job? What's important to them? So and this is where connection really became an incredibly valuable tool that became unearthed is if somebody is trying to I don't know, their job is to buy packaging.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a very real, fresh example of something that a conversation I had this morning, about 6:30 this morning. Somebody called me and they were like, "Hey, I've got this brand new product that's coming to market. It is a fully recyclable in paper streams, fully marine degradable, flexible film that can be used in snacks and bars and these. It's incredible. Like it would be a revolutionary type of material." And my immediate thought was, who can I help make introductions to? That has now become my, it's just my reaction. I don't know. And so I was like, do you know people at this company, this company, this company, this company? He's like, no. And so I'm like, great, let me reach out and connect you to them. And
Love
so
it.
I reach out, I'll send emails. And it's not like, hey, I fully validate that this is real and true, because that's for the companies and the person who's working there. But what does that person want to be able to do? Is they want to be able to go in their next meeting with the brand, with R&D and say, you guys, I found this great material. Should we trial it? Should we test it? It's got all these benefits. So, and I found when I was selling stuff, when I would bring people these things that there was no call to action, it wasn't a loan. I'm a big believer in lending versus gifting. A loan with undisclosed terms is terrible. So if you're like, I help these people out, why won't they call me? Why won't they talk to me? Well, you didn't help them out.
Didn't do it. Yeah.
You straddled them with debt that they don't know they have, and now you're frustrated that they're not paying the terms because you dictated the terms. No wonder you're frustrated. But
I love the way you just said that. I love that.
if
Yeah.
you
Go
can
ahead.
freely give, then you disconnect. Josh
Yeah.
always talks about disconnecting from the outcome. So it was people like that that gave me this framework to understand, like, if I connect people together, then I'm bringing value to both parties. So
Yep.
now I have a network person, somebody who's going to be like, man, you helped me out. And then I have somebody at the CPG company who's like, man, Adam made this great connection. And then I never do anything to try to leverage that,
Yep.
but I just continue to make connections over and over and over and over again. And I learned a third lesson through connections, which is the power of reciprocity,
Yep.
which is that people don't enjoy not helping you back out. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it. I said something
No,
very eloquently, and I said that horribly. But if somebody does something really kind to you or for you, most human beings are left going, I'd really like to help that person out.
Yep.
And they're not thinking about it all the time, but then something triggers, they're in a meeting somewhere, it's unpredictably wild, and they're like, you know who could probably help you is Adam. Because when you are the person who's just out there always making connections, then there are people who are constantly trying to reciprocate that, even though you never ask them. But the minute you ask them to do it, you've lost the power of that reciprocity, because now they
Yep.
feel like, oh, it was a bait and switch.
Yep.
I have to do something now for them. Now there's no longer reciprocity. The connection is then lost a little bit
Yep.
when you do that. So I began to discover this. I don't know if it was accidentally or not in my role in sales and marketing, but this is true across the board.
Yes, sir.
When you help somebody find a job, when you help them connect with a good realtor, there's a mechanic in Monument, Colorado that I don't know how many people I have sent to this person. His name's Bobby. He's the best. He's just great at what he does. And the reason why I send people there is because he had an opportunity to charge me a lot of money to fix my car. I didn't know what was wrong with it. He tried to figure it out. He didn't know what was wrong with it. He said it's going to be X. It was like $1,500. I was like, sounds like we have to do it. And then 2 hours later, he called me and he was like, I got to thinking, I think I can fix this. And he charged me $150, and he fixed it, and it was great.
That's Bobby over at Monument Auto. Shout out to
See,
Bobby.
you know him.
I
You know
know
him because we've talked about him.
Yeah.
Like, I think about people like that in my life all the time who just like did the right thing, and they created this connection with me. And he didn't say, hey, can you do me a solid and write me a good referral? Because when you
Nope.
do that and you're like, hey, go leave me a good Google review. Well, I feel like I've already done the thing then. I've done something really
Yeah.
easy. Just
Yeah.
don't ask me. Just allow for it to happen organically. And it may be that you get 50 referrals.
Yeah.
You have no idea. Just allow that connection to be there and don't disrupt it. Unless you have to. Sometimes you make a connection and it's like, I can't be connected to you anymore. There's a few
Yeah.
people in my life that I've had to disconnect from.
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's nothing
Yeah.
there, but understand that that's what's happening.
Dude, this is huge. And for anybody like what you just described is gold. I mean, it's solid gold. It's funny because intuitively I resonate, right? Like I resonate with the way that you see the world. I see the world a similar way. Anybody that wants to dig more into this thinking, there's a book called The Go Giver
So good.
by Bob
You should
Berg.
have him on your podcast.
I already did.
I know. I'm so stoked for you. I was like, oh my gosh.
You so pumped? Yeah, dude. That was a really high moment for me, man. Getting to sit with Bob Berg.
That's great.
But yeah, that because what I hear is, that book took exactly what you and I are talking about and distilled it into a business parable and showed how that's the best way to do business is to go out into the world with an emphasis on creating value for other people. And being more concerned about what you give than what you receive. And he doesn't say never be concerned about what you receive because we live in a world where we need to provide for our families. And so he doesn't say that.
And sometimes you have to withdraw. Sometimes you have to go like, I mean, I've had to do this before where it's like, hey, can I ask you for a favor? And I'm not putting this on them. I'm not be like, hey, remember that time? It's just like, hey, can I ask you for a favor? I'm looking to do this. Can you help me out? And most people will say, yeah, of course. What do you need?
Or they'll say no, and you're totally fine because
it's fine. Yeah,
there's no strings attached to it.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the last law of the Go Giver. I think it's the fifth or sixth law of the Go Giver is like if you're going to be out in the world giving, you got to be willing to receive, and not be that person who's like, nope, no one can ever do for me. There's a pride in that that's just as bad, right? Like I only do for others, no one can ever do for me. It's like, nah, that's not. If you're going to live this way,
stripping away their joy, right? Like there's joy in giving, and when you don't receive, when people give to you, then you are actually selfishly taking away their ability to experience that joy of the gift.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and that's true. I mean, it sounds like kind of fuzzy, like unicorny, whatever, but it's true. Some of the greatest joy I get, and I think you can probably identify with this. Like I get great joy when I make a connection for somebody that changes their life.
Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of joy. It's exhilarating to do that.
Mm-hmm. Nikola Jokic, the greatest basketball player alive, from the 2023 World Champion Denver Nuggets, said, he said, I'm a huge Denver Nuggets fan. If you don't know this, proud owner of a Denver Nuggets championship tattoo. But he said why he enjoys getting assists is he said because it makes two people happy. He said it makes me happy because I got to make the pass, and it makes the other person happy because they got to score.
Man,
I'm pretty sure it was Jokic who said that. That might have been Tupac, but I get the two of them confused all the time.
Assists make two people happy. It's so deep, man. It's beautiful. So let me tell you, I'd like you to share some of your favorite ways that because again, I would call you a super connector. I think you've achieved a level of network size, goodwill, right? Your bank is full, right? In terms of deposits, you don't make a lot of withdrawals. You make a lot of deposits though, which means that there's a lot of good faith in reserve for you in the world. And then you leverage that often on behalf of other people, not yourself.
Correct.
Right. Which is cool, right? You got all that goodwill. And it's like, well, let me use it. You're looking for a job. Let me use this for you. right? Or you need something. Let me use this for you, and that just increases the reserve. um, but yeah, I'd love you to tell us some ways that you use the connection in your life to help other people.
Oh man. Um, how have I used connection? Well, I mean, I gave the example already of like when somebody says, "Hey, I'm trying to connect to this company,"
Yep.
and that is sort of the assist. It's there's a there's sort of a Trinitarian goodness that happens where it helps the person here, it helps this person, and it's helpful
Yep.
for me.
Yep.
So one
Yep.
act of connection creates three pieces of goodness. And so I do this often with people who are looking for jobs.
Yep.
To be honest with you, it's one of my favorite things. Somebody asked me if I'd ever be a sales recruiter, and I don't think I could do it. Not because sales recruiters are bad people. I'm not saying that at all. It's
Yep.
just if all of a sudden my income was dependent upon this, I suspect I would not. It wouldn't be as organic or natural. But I really love when somebody says, "Hey, I'm looking for a good salesperson. Do you know someone?" Or "I'm looking for a good packaging engineer." Or I'll post packaging engineering jobs because a job and a career can really change the trajectory of somebody's life circumstances.
Yes.
Um, it's between home ownership and and a good career. Those tend to be the two things. And by the way, this is a whole other tangent that I could just go off on, but those two things are inextricably tied to creating a family.
Yeah.
So people who have families with children, this is just data, tend to have better careers and are forced into home ownership and to get creative. How do I own a home is a very hard thing to do when you're young, and when you are married or if you have a child, um, you're sort of forced into that. Whereas
Yeah.
people who don't tend to not be forced. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule, but
Sure.
um, so those two things I love, I absolutely love doing. Well, not the home ownership stuff, but the career stuff is a way that I love creating connections. But
Yeah.
oftentimes that can go into investments and all the other ways to sort of lever up in our society.
Yeah.
The podcast though has been, and you're finding this out already, the amount of people that I've been able to connect with through my podcast has been insane. The
Yeah.
amount of people that I can text. So I got on a call. It was like a pre-call with somebody, and it got booked through my calendar. Like I sent out the Calendly, they booked it, and I get into the pre-call. I'm like, "So tell me about yourself." And he's like, "I split my time between Los Angeles and Atlanta." I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting. Why do you do that?" And he starts looking at me like, I don't think this guy has researched anything, which I hadn't. I just jumped onto the call. Situational fluidity.
Yeah.
I just jumped in from whatever I was doing. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, that's where the Marvel studios are." I was like, "Oh, are you like a producer? What do you do with Marvel?" He's like, "I'm an actor." And I'm like, "Crazy. Like what do you who are you? Like what do you do for acting?" He's like, "Well, I played Captain America and the Falcon and Winter Soldier." And I was like, "Interesting." You could probably hear my keyboard going like, "Who is this person and why didn't I?"
What the heck, bro?
And so
Chris Evans?
no, it was not Chris Evans. It's Wyatt Russell.
Okay.
He plays like the evil Captain America. I would have
Oh,
called Chris
okay. Yeah.
Evans.
Yeah.
So, but then it's like he's like, "Hang on a second, I gotta go. I gotta give some keys to my dad." So he like gets up and he comes back, and I'm like Googling, and I'm like, "Oh, his dad is Kurt Russell, and his mom is Goldie Hawn." Like, what a
What, bro?
crazy world. But what was interesting is like for him, it had to be such a refreshing conversation that I was just having an organically derived
Yeah.
conversation
Yeah.
about just like we were just having a chat, and it ended up being a phenomenal interview. Not safe for the whole family. There's a lot of interesting
Yeah.
stories that they share. It's
I have
not
a
giving
couple
a
of
good
those
on
as well.
Caleb,
I got a couple of those too. Yeah.
but it was just people, or like the guy who found Sean Riley, who started Dude Wipes. Like we
Yeah.
met on an airplane, and we made this connection, and he sat and we talked for a while, and he came on my podcast, and it's just been if you are unafraid of connecting with people in real life, which I know is hard for some people, and if you are unafraid to reach out and be rejected, because it's going to happen, then you can do some really powerful stuff. And the
Real.
podcast has been the best thing I've done in my career.
It's phenomenal, dude. I mean, and I'm getting to taste that, right? It's like I have another, like when I meet somebody who's amazing, which because I'm a connector, I'm always meeting people, right? And it doesn't, you know, whether they're influential or not influential, right? I'm always meeting amazing people that have incredible superpowers because that's kind of how I see the world.
Yeah.
And so having the podcast and the newsletter gives me a reason or a reason to extend the relationship, right? Or a
Correct.
place to put people so that we get more time together, just automatic, right? And so if I'm talking with somebody, I'm like, oh, okay, this person's passionate about uh, artistry, Christianity and artistry. It's like, all right, I'm gonna put you on the Tongues of Fire podcast, right? Like we're gonna talk about that. And so yeah, that's what I've found. It's just been this incredible like this multiplier
Yeah.
of relationship and getting time with people.
Can I get
Because
theological here for a second?
yeah,
I'd love for everyone. You can come in close if you're watching
come on,
this here on
let's hear
YouTube.
it. Come on, give it to me.
Um, everybody, every single human being has worth, has value, has dignity. And that is the beautiful thing about not only what you're doing, but about making connections
Yeah,
is that I believe that everybody is an image bearer of God, and
yes,
that even if they are wicked and terrible, I still can try to find ways to unearth that inside of them.
the
And that
image.
for me, if you want to know my Simon Sinek start with why, like
Yeah,
that is where the connections began, is I just believe it to my core that everybody has worth, has value,
yeah,
has dignity, and is deserving
yeah,
of my respect. So that
bro.
was my like, come on, let's come in.
No, it's beautiful, man.
And because you were saying that, and I'm like, if you go through my podcast, like, yes, there's the Wyatt Russells and the Sean Rileys of the world, and there's
Hmm.
really, really important people. And then there's also just students.
Yep.
There's, I just did an interview with a gentleman named John Shwea, who is organizing 28,000 waste collectors in Kenya to restore dignity and provide a level of well-being for this massive group of people in this country of Kenya. There's so many incredible people and stories out there.
Yeah.
And I think that I could, at this point, this isn't a prideful thing at all, but I believe to my core that I could make a 15-minute interview with anybody
Yeah.
and we would get to the root cause of like who they are and why they matter. And I think that's what drives me. It's not
Dude, I see
packaging,
it.
it's not
Yeah.
anything else. It's like that's the driver, is that everybody is made in the image of God, and I want to talk with them about it.
Dude, you and I are so on the same page with this, man. Like it's like, yeah, I could have said something very similar from my own heart, right? Like I've never met a boring person
Yes.
because if you ask the right questions, you'll get the story. And the stories are beautiful, man, because humans are beautiful because they're made in the image of God. They're incredible. They're breathtaking. They have something special and unique inside of them, man. And I get to see that. Like if you're curious and you'll ask some questions, you'll always get to see it.
Mhm.
Almost always. I mean it's rare that there's some people that don't like my particular flavor of Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? Like you know,
I get it.
yeah.
There are it doesn't mean that obviously there are people who they're not going to interview very well, or they're not going to
Yeah.
be they don't want to be forthcoming. Just like you and I have our own shortcomings, right? Like that might be somebody's shortcoming, and that's fine. That might not be for an entertaining episode, but I
Yeah.
will tell you that I will do my darndest to 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 try, because of that belief. Because
Yeah.
I know for a fact that that person has something beautiful about them, that they have something interesting, that they
Yeah.
have something incredible to share. And that's why I encourage people to become creators versus
Yeah.
consumers, is like, you have a perspective. We were talking before the call or before the interview. You know, my good friend Phil Clark, who I've known forever, works in the hydrogen industry and it does like safety, EHS, something like that. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
It's been so awesome and wonderful to see him lean into that and just start talking about this industry that I don't know anything about,
Yeah.
but I love watching it. And it's been fun.
Because you love the person. And I would say this, like it got this simple for me. And I had this come into my spirit and my heart back when I was a pastor. And I was asking, how do I love people? And the first step of loving someone is to know them, right? Like,
Yep.
I mean, not to say that somebody can't have a higher, just, you know, there are people that have died for people they've never met. So I'm not to say that there's not a supernatural ability, but I'm saying like in practical life, the first way for me to love you is to give you my attention, right? And to actually spend time seeing, hearing, and knowing who you are.
Hmm.
That's the first, and other acts of love spring up from that origin, right?
Yeah.
Um, so
There's a
I
great
think
book
you,
by an author named Anthony DeMello called Awareness, and he talks about that. It's an older book, but he talks about how being aware of somebody is the first step. And this is where these things become so detrimental, right?
yep,
Is because I can be, especially with my family, I can be present but not aware. I can be
yep,
physically, I can be present, but I can be not aware of what's happening. And I don't know how many times a day I have to be like, I'm so sorry. I wasn't paying attention and that's my mistake. Like, I care
yep,
about you. I have to set my phone down and say, my bad.
yeah,
I'm sorry. I was here, but I'm not aware.
yeah. Sometimes you gotta drop kick your phone. Yeah.
Yes. Propaganda, by the way, has the best. His Be Present poem from
What's
like
that?
a decade ago when he talks about getting a divorce from his wife. It was his phone. It's a great poem. It's called Be Present. Go look it up. Be Present Propaganda. Catalyst
Yeah,
Conference.
man. That's a very good poem. Very good poem.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so I think we've come to the end. So I
We're just
really
getting
appreciate.
started. Come on.
I know, dude.
No, we're
What
not.
this means is that there needs to be more because I feel like we barely scratched the surface. We could have some good conversations just taking any one of those points and expanding it out.
Shout out to the
But
listener. If you're still watching or listening, you're the real superhero here because this is a long conversation.
it's a long one. It's a long one, but it's a good one. So thanks a lot for joining us today, Adam.
Yeah, I appreciate it. If anyone wants to connect, LinkedIn is usually the best place. I'm very active. I try to respond to people, but please don't connect and then try to sell something to somebody. It's the like people who are like, just just connect
Don't do
and
it.
then say hi. Like send a GIF. I don't know, do something. But a PDF with your Calendly link talking about how great you are, not a great thing to do. But please connect up with me on LinkedIn. You can find me, Adam Peek, Peek. Probably the easiest.
That's awesome, man. Yep. And everybody who joined us to the end, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.